Around 1,000 years ago, deep in the heart of what is now Switzerland, a nobleman named Radbot was on a hunting expedition. As he pursued his prey through the dense forests of Aargau, his prized hawk vanished into the misty hills. Searching for his lost bird, Radbot stumbled upon a rocky outcrop. Seeing its strategic potential, he built a fortress there and named it Habichtsburg, Hawk's Castle. That castle and the family that ruled from it would one day control vast empires and shape European history. But was this legendary tale true? Historians have long questioned the romanticized story of Radbot's hawk. While Radbot himself was a real nobleman of the early 11th century, no contemporary evidence confirms that he founded Castle Habsburg. What is certain, however, is that the dynasty that bore its name would grow from obscure Swabian lords into rulers of kingdoms, empires, and even the Holy Roman Empire itself. The roots of the Habsburgs stretch back to the 10th century, where a man named Lancelin, a vassal of the Holy Roman Emperor, controlled lands in the Swabian Duchy. But at this point, the Habsburgs weren't even called Habsburgs. That identity came much later. In fact, for centuries, they were known simply as the House of Austria, a name that would become synonymous with European dominance. But not everyone saw them as noble rulers. Swiss historians, particularly during their fight for independence, painted the Habsburgs as greedy and oppressive robber barons, eager to squeeze every coin from the common people. While this view is undoubtedly biased, there is some truth in the way the Habsburgs built their early power. Wealth didn't come from vast armies or grand conquests, it came from trade. Their lands sat on key trade routes through the Alps, allowing them to amass fortunes by controlling toll stations and taxes. Money alone, however, wasn't enough. The true genius of the Habsburgs lay in their ability to expand their influence through inheritance and marriage. By strategically marrying into noble families, they acquired lands from powerful houses like Pfullendorf, Hamburg, Lenzburg, Zaringen, and Kyburg, slowly expanding their reach. But power, as always, depended on loyalty. During the 12th and 13th centuries, the Habsburgs served as loyal vassals to the ruling imperial house of Hohenstaufen. This allegiance earned them imperial favor and, more importantly, more land. But when the Hohenstaufens fell, Germany plunged into chaos. The empire entered a period known as the Great Interregnum, an era without a clear ruler, where nobles and warlords fought for dominance. It was in this climate that Rudolf of Habsburg emerged. A practical, battle-hardened nobleman, Rudolf was not the most powerful lord in Germany, but he was a safe compromise. In 1273, desperate to restore order, the electors crowned him king of the Romans. Few could have predicted that this would mark the true rise of the Habsburgs. Rudolf wasted no time in consolidating power. He allied with the growing cities, crushed rebellious nobles, abolished illegal tolls, and relentlessly hunted down robber barons. But one enemy loomed above all others: Ottokar II of Bohemia. A powerful and ambitious ruler, Ottokar refused to acknowledge Rudolf's authority, setting the stage for war. The conflict culminated in 1278 at the Battle of Marchfeld. Rudolf, supported by Hungarian forces, clashed with Ottokar in a brutal and decisive battle. When the dust settled, Ottokar lay dead, and the Habsburgs stood victorious. The rewards were enormous. Austria, Styria, and Carinthia fell into Habsburg hands, transforming a once insignificant noble house into a true European powerhouse. But the empire was not yet secure. Rudolf, despite his success, failed in one crucial ambition: making the imperial throne hereditary. The German nobles, wary of one family growing too strong, resisted the idea, ensuring that Rudolf's death would bring fresh struggles. His son, Albert I, was elected king, but his rule was far from stable. Clashing with Pope Boniface VIII and powerful rival nobles, he fought bitterly to maintain control. Determined to expand the Habsburg domain, Albert invaded Bohemia, installing his son as ruler. But conquest came at a price. In 1308, Albert was assassinated by his own nephew, John, in a shocking act of betrayal that plunged the dynasty into uncertainty. Meanwhile, in the Swiss Alps, resentment toward Habsburg rule boiled over. In 1315, at the Battle of Morgarten, a small Swiss force ambushed and annihilated a much larger Habsburg army. It was a humiliating defeat, and it marked the beginning of Swiss independence. The Habsburgs, who had once seemed unstoppable, now faced resistance on multiple fronts. But despite these setbacks, The dynasty had already established itself as a dominant force in Europe. With Austria as their stronghold, the Habsburgs would weather every storm, outlast their enemies, and ultimately rise to rule over Spain, the Holy Roman Empire, and beyond. Over the next centuries, the Habsburgs mastered the art of political alliances, forging marriages that expanded their influence far beyond their original lands. The family's most famous motto, "Let others wage war, you, happy Austria, marry," was not just a saying. It was the very strategy that propelled them to the heights of European power. This approach reached its peak in the late 15th century, when the Habsburgs orchestrated a marriage that would change history. Maximilian I, the grandson of Albert II, married Mary of Burgundy, the heiress to the vast and wealthy Burgundian territories. With one wedding, the Habsburgs gained control over the Low Countries and parts of France, making them one of the most powerful families in Europe. But that was just the beginning. Maximilian's son, Philip the Handsome, married Joanna of Castile, the daughter of the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. This single union would lay the foundation for one of the greatest empires in history. When Joanna's mentally unstable condition left her unfit to rule, their son, Charles V, inherited not just Austria and the Burgundian lands, but also the crowns of Spain and its growing American empire. For the first time, a Habsburg sat on the throne of Spain, and with it came unimaginable wealth. Gold and silver from the Americas flowed into Habsburg coffers, funding armies, navies, and endless wars. Under Charles V, the Habsburgs reached the height of their power, ruling vast territories spanning from Vienna to Mexico, from the Netherlands to the Philippines. But with great power came great enemies. The rise of the Ottoman Empire threatened Habsburg control in Eastern Europe, while Protestant reformers in Germany challenged their authority from within. Charles V spent his reign waging wars on multiple fronts, battling the Ottomans in the east, fighting Protestant princes in the Holy Roman Empire, and engaging in endless conflicts with France. Though he won many battles, he could not defeat time. Exhausted, Charles V abdicated the throne in 1556, splitting his empire in two. His brother Ferdinand took Austria and the Holy Roman Empire, while his son Philip II inherited Spain and its overseas empire. The Habsburgs had now divided into two branches, one ruling in Vienna, the other in Madrid. And though their domains stretched across continents, the cracks in their empire were beginning to show. In Spain, Philip II waged costly wars against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, fought England's Queen Elizabeth I, and sent the infamous Spanish Armada, only to see it destroyed. Meanwhile, in Austria, the Holy Roman Emperors struggled to keep the empire united as religious tensions threatened to tear it apart. By the 17th century, the once invincible Habsburg dynasty was facing its greatest challenge yet. The 30 Years' War, a brutal conflict between Catholics and Protestants, devastated the Holy Roman Empire and drained Habsburg resources. Though they emerged with Austria intact, their dominance over Europe was fading. But the Habsburgs were nothing if not survivors. Even as their Spanish branch declined, the Austrian Habsburgs found new ways to expand. They defeated the Ottomans in major battles, reclaiming lost territories and solidifying their rule in Central Europe. And then came Maria Theresa, a ruler who would redefine the dynasty's future. As the only female ruler of the Habsburg lands, she faced constant threats from rival powers. But through sheer determination, military reforms, and strategic alliances, she preserved the Habsburg realm. Her son, Joseph II, would go on to modernize Austria, setting the stage for the dynasty's final transformation. By the 19th century, the Habsburgs had lost the title of Holy Roman Emperor but had created a new empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They ruled until 1918, when World War I finally brought down the centuries-old dynasty. But the legacy of the Habsburgs still lingers. Their former territories shape modern Europe, their castles still stand, and their bloodlines still run through the veins of royalty. From a lost hawk in the Swiss forests to ruling half the world, the Habsburgs were the ultimate survivors of European history. And while their empire has faded, their name remains eternal.